Winnie, it's been a tough 12 to 18 months for you in the hotel business. What are you seeing in the industry, and what are your projections of the future of travel?
Sure, thank you. I mean, it's been really, you've rightly said, it's been really a very tough 12 to 18 months in our industry, especially in Hong Kong. We had the protest as well. Then thereafter, we have the COVID. So it's been tough. In terms of what I'm seeing in the industry, I think a few things. Coming up with now the vaccination and all that, we see that places with the leisure travel business will come back first. And also in terms of travel, I think travel bubble will be, the cities with travel bubble in place will be the first to come back. And in terms of the growth, I think that places with domestic travel for sure will be the first to come back. We're already seeing this trend in the China, where we have hotels, and Japan as well as Australia, with more domestic travel in place. Yeah, so that's really, in fact, what we are seeing. In terms of what's been happening in the world, I think travel industry is definitely the most hardest hit. In Hong Kong, our homeland, we're thankful because we've opened up our doors in the very onset of the pandemic for quarantine, and we've done that globally with both the quarantine as well as medical staff. We've welcomed over 4,000 medical staff globally in the UK, in Wuhan, starting in Wuhan actually, in the UK, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And we've actually housed over 150,000 quarantine guests over this 12 months. So, I mean, for us, I think we are in a better position. However, of course, I mean, as compared to 18 months ago, we're completely in a complete different landscape. Yes.
Right. So, your hotel chain, in fact, you probably made that decision. You had that bold decision of turning the Dorsett Hotel in Wuhan right at the outbreak into an emergency and quarantine center. Tell me about that decision. How did you decide making that decision? Must be a bold move for you.
Sure. I mean, again, it comes very naturally for us. As in our group, part of our core value is really giving back to the society. So at the end of the day, of course, decision has to come from top. But at the end of the day, if you want to do execution and all that, it's really all your colleagues on ground. So in fact, for the pandemic, we're very grateful, and it reiterates my belief, my strong belief in the corporate culture. And our corporate culture is really very much giving back to society. So of course, when in the onset, January, February of the pandemic last year, we see that Wuhan is definitely in need of more medical personnel into the city. So we very gladly open our doors to welcome and support that. And subsequently, as I mentioned earlier, we've done the same in the UK with the NHS, and we have also done the same in Hong Kong. And in fact, what we are also doing is that I'm so proud of my company, really. In fact, what we are also doing now, we're turning some of our hotel to vaccination centers. So our hotel in Germany, for example, our hotel in Japan, they are going to open up their lobby and their ballroom facility as vaccination centers in like in the countries that they operate in. But when you think about it, apart from the core culture, what is the most important is to give support to your team, because everyone is fear of the unknown. In the onset of the pandemic, I mean, everyone's so scared. Of course, we have the experience from SARS, but it's important that your colleagues on the front actually feel comfort. And also, it's also not just them, but their family members. So what we have done differently is, first of all, to making sure that our hardware is very much up to standard, because we're doing this of the mindset that we do not want community spread, and we want to support the local community we're in. So the most important is to first look after your own people. So again, in the onset, we really invited a lot of medical team and expertise to come and explain to our colleagues what the COVID is. And of course, it progresses as we have more information. And also partnering with good people. So we partnered very much earlier with Ecolab, and they're one of the leading experts in In fact, in fact they actually help like a lot of hospitals and all that for disinfectant. So we've really introduced a lot of this, and also technology plays an important role. So in the very onset, we've also deployed kind of we have check-in service that is like basically online check-in services, and we also have robots delivering room service, food, as well as cleaning into the hotels. Yeah.
For those who haven't been able to come to Asia or visit China or Hong Kong, what is it like there now? Say, for example, in Wuhan, in China, or in Hong Kong in general. What is it like now? Yeah.
So our hotels in China, apart now we only have Chengdu that is still doing quarantine guests, but in terms of recovery, Wuhan, Shanghai, they're very much back to normal. They're back to 12 months ago because there's so much domestic travel. In Hong Kong, out of our 9 hotels, 6 hotels are doing quarantine guests. The other 1 hotel, we actually leased it to the hospital, and the other 2 we in fact doing close contact. So, and our hotels in Hong Kong, we really do the quarantine guests. So, for example, at the moment we've opened up for travelers coming back, so it's 21 days of quarantine. So again, this is something I'm extremely proud of also, because our team really think about the guest experience. I mean, 21 days is a very, very long time. So what we do is that first of all, we open up Dorsett. We believe very much in the mental health as well as day-to-day, your actual physical health. So we actually have fitness machines that you can lease during your quarantine in your bedroom. And in fact, we're the first hotel group to even launch CBD oil during this time of pandemic. So there have been many firsts in our group, because part of our core value is innovation. So we like to try and work with a lot of different vendors and people, and really thinking about enhancing the guest experience. And so we think more into the details of operation and guest experience. Yes.
What about other parts of the world? What are you seeing in Europe or in Australia?
So Australia, we're doing quite well. We have a Ritz-Carlton in Australia, because Australia is very much strong in domestic travel. So our weekends is packed, with over 80-90% occupancy. Weekdays is of course a little bit more weak, because you do not have the overseas guests. So it's really the corporate guests is a little bit slower. So we're seeing about 30-40% occupancy on the weekdays. So similarly in Malaysia, there are more domestic travel. Same in Japan, where there's more domestic travel, it is actually more better. And our hotels in Europe, for example, we have to work with the government. So if there are human control and all that we cannot go out, then we will have to close the hotel. So what we've been doing lately with a lot of our hotel is really also to control cost, to see, because it will be an open and close kind of next 12 months, depends on the speed of vaccination in each country and all that. So that's really what we're seeing.
Now, I suppose when the world opens up, you'll be traveling around. And if you read the terrible news coverage over the past few weeks about racist violence, about hate crime, some crazy guys pushing over some old folks, Asian, and what do you think of that? And are you still willing to travel? And what can we do about it as Asians?
I mean, yes, for sure. I feel that we can all do something about it. You just start from ourselves, because we're all ambassadors of Chinese. This is something I feel very passionate about, because by nature, as Chinese, we're very much inclusive and we're very kind nature. If you look at from the history, I think history tells a lot. When Zhang Wo, Ha Sai Yang, and times like that we do not believe in divide and conquering. We offer, when we go to a city or a country, we offer trade, we offer exchange of technology. What I really want to share is of course, now being a mother, is a Chinese poem that we really learned from we're 2 or 3. It's a Samji Ging. So in Chinese, it goes by Yan Qi Cho Sing Bun Xin. 性相近，習相遠. In English, in terms of translation, it means men on earth, good at birth, the same nature varies on nurture. I very much believe this is our core value as Chinese, and we all have responsibility to show others, and we're all very international people in this group, to show others that we are of an inclusive nature and we are very peaceful by birth. So that's really very much what I want to say.
Now, well, obviously, thanks for sharing about the virtues of all the Chinese, but there's still a lot to do for us here in Asia, and
Yes.
and for you as a female executive, as an Asian businesswoman, do you also feel that there's a lack of opportunity here for Asian executives to promote diversity and so forth? What's your view on that, and how are you leading that topic, because you have been leading that over the past few years?
I mean, I've really been very thankful on a lot of recognition that I have received. I really hope that I can act as an influencer as well as a ambassador, and really showing, first of all, if you talk about diversity, showing girls what can be achieved. In fact, a lot of times, if you look at studies, a lot of women normally have less confidence. They have their confidence at a later age. This is, something that if you look at management is somewhat different. So what I want to say, I mean, sometimes people always ask me this question: what will you tell yourself 15 years ago? I really feel that it's important to believe in yourself and believe in what you want to do. And no one is perfect, really. And the earlier as a woman, we accept our strength and our weaknesses and really surround ourselves with good people that actually complement us is the most important. So in fact, if you ask me, this is really what I'm doing. And when we talk about how to provide more opportunities and all that to Asian businesswomen, our group has really been in the forefront in developing scholarships and opportunities with working together with university on entrepreneurship. And in fact, we are looking into how we can incept at an earlier age, because as I mentioned earlier, according to the studies, it takes women a little bit longer to feel more comfortable under the skin. And now with technology, it's really the best place because the barrier of entry in a way is lower. I mean, it's unlike property development where CapEx is so high. With technology and being well-versed at a young age, it really opens up a lot more opportunities for women and ladies, yes.
Right. And what about having traveled around the world and working with so many different groups of people from different nations? Have you noticed a difference in the attitude to businesswomen across the different countries that you worked at?
Of course, but I don't think it's just towards businesswomen and all that. I think whenever, because I'm in the hotel industry, so I'm always more sensitive to culture. Culture comes by religion, it comes by education, it comes by history. So being more sensitive to that is important. Of course, there are more countries that like Japan or something that will be a little bit taken back. But I believe that if you have the passion and if together you show what you want to do, it's possible. I mean, you are seeing a lot of progression in places like Japan and China, and a lot more accepting into women in leadership.
Obviously, you are really big in kind of social enterprises and all that. But in the investment world, we talk about ESG,
Yes.
environmental, social, and governance. And I think you're big in the social part, but what about the environmental part? Is there anything the hospitality industry could do to improve the environment?
Now, just give you some statistics. If you think about it, in the 1950s, our population is at 2.5 billion. This year, we're around 7.8 billion. So imagine the food we take, imagine the carbon that we emit, and just the absolute wastages. So in terms of the hospitality industry, what we can do is that we are actually, I mean, you start from within. I always believe everything you do really from ourselves. So I myself start with like, I cannot I cannot be completely plant-based, but I am starting once or twice a week to have a plant-based diet. And we are, in fact, it's really started from the quarantine that we now offer plant-based and vegetarian food into the hotel. So hopefully with this, there is less wastages that relates to food, and also what we see, like small things. I mean, really start from within, even from the quarantine business, because of health regulation, people are eating 3 meals a day, and at 21 days, that's like 63 meals. And so instead of we cannot totally omit the plastic. And I mean, every time I see the single-use plastic, it just is staggering. But what we do is when you check in, we give you your own set of cutleries. So already it eliminates kind of 63 sets of plastic forks and spoons and all that. And we're one of the earliest to adopt soap dispensers. I mean, it just starts from within, and bit by bit, we're doing our role. And I think the awareness is really what we all should pitch.
You know, a lot of people say, okay, if you do ESG, it's good for your business for the long term. But as an investor myself, I haven't really see how ESG could improve business profits and so forth. Or it could just be a saying. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
No,
But
please.
as
I
a
mean, don't worry. I do this with my father all the time, because every time when we're building a new hotel, he will always grill me on such. So please, I mean, again, it starts with planning. We just talk about the simplest, easiest to grasp. Let's talk about solar panel. And there's different countries that really push for this. So in fact, there's a tax relief. And also when you think about solar energy, in Hong Kong, if you actually make from solar panel, if you make 1 kilowatt of energy, you can sell it back to the government. You get 5 kilowatt back. So that's again an immediate effect that you can see. And in fact, if you look at the capex, it's much lower, because there's economies of scale. There's much more people are aware and willing to use environmental friendly things, incorporate all this into the planning, into the building. And even again, when we talk about that, we talk about construction. Construction creates so much waste on ground travel, and also the logistics side. So we are actually adopting in Australia and in the UK, we're adopting prefab hotel units, because hotel is not too hard, because the rooms are similar in size and the layout. So it's much easier for us to plan and adopt prefabricated units and stack them together. And again, this is incredible in terms of, it helps with timing. If we think about money, what costs the most is delays. So it definitely helps in terms of timing. You can grasp the time that you deliver the project is much more in your control. And again, in terms of wastage, it's just much less.
Right. You mentioned about your father earlier. So
Yes.
what is it like working for or working with your father?
I'm blessed. My father is very open-minded. In fact, talking about ESG, he delivered the opening remarks for World Economic Forum on ESG yesterday. So I'm very proud. So really, he's very open-minded. He started off being like you, playing your devil's advocate, or maybe just trying to challenge us to think more. So in fact, I'm really very blessed. He's a very hardworking guy. What I really learned from him is to be a very compassionate leader and being nice to your team. And I think making money will follow. I really believe that. I believe that if your culture is right, if you treat your people well, the guests can feel it, and making money will just follow. Like I give you I give you an example that I'm also proud. During the pandemic, if you think about it, like domestic violence has gone up 1.5 times in Hong Kong, because places are tight, all that. We've over the last year, we've housed over 500 victims of domestic violence and things like that. It sets your corporate culture. And once you do that, I think that's why we're more well equipped, and we're more faster when the market turns, and we're more equipped to challenges, and we can rise above challenges because of the culture.
Right. But for you, having joined the family business for quite some time now, what are your challenges, facing into, steering and working under, you know, a family empire, comparatively to someone from the outside joining into the hospitality arm? What are your challenges, or what did you learn from being a part of this?
Sure. I mean, family is family. The biggest challenge is it never stops. Even after you go home, you're still talking about work. So that's something different from other executives. But apart from that, we're pretty much transparent because our governance is very strong. And in fact, my father is very much our chairman and he's a board member. So he doesn't really get involved in the day-to-day, the questions he asks and the direction. If he's a visionary, he gives us direction. But in terms of day-to-day, he really leave us to it. And we really just answer to the numbers and as well as, you know, an operation and all and the growth. So that's really, I think it's a blessing because in the Asia society, it's quite rare. He is a huge believer of gender equality. So I think this way we're very blessed.
Where do you think the world is in the economic cycle or business cycle? Are we towards a bubble, or are we at the bubble because everybody's talking about how technology is now in the bubble, startups in a bubble, stock market might be in a bubble? Where are you, and where do you see where are we in this cycle?
Ronald, that's your subject of expert. In fact, I should be asking you and learning from you. In terms of just generally speaking, I think so much money is being printed in the US. You can see from the stock market, interest rate is so low. It's all about holding power. In our business, we own a lot of real estate. We're a fully integrated hotel company. So in terms of what I'm seeing in the market, in fact, I'm seeing smaller players that may be having a bit more struggle because there will be times when there's tightening of lending. So you see when the valuation goes down, there are more opportunities for me. In fact, in these front, interest rate is still low. It's really all about holding power. So in terms of this is a good question because whenever I think of this, I think of how we can grow, and we definitely see that there are, you know, opportunities out there because of this, of especially in the hospitality industry.
Right. Now, I know time is running out, and before I let you go, when the world opens up, where are you going to go first? What is your first destination?
Well, when the world opens up, there are too many places that I want to go. Of course, for work, I have to go to Australia and Japan because we're opening the 2 hotels. And in fact, in China, because what I talked about earlier, we talked about post-pandemic. What is the world going to be like? There are many companies that I am meeting via Zoom now in terms of technology because the pandemic really speed up the application of technology in our industry. So I do want to visit these factories. We're talking about contactless lift. We're talking about all this kind of AI. There's even when we're talking about workout, we now have all this workout mirror in the room, and using AI technology and all this. So there's so many new things that I have to go and visit and really get a feel. So these are the main places. And yourself?
I think I'll go to Japan first.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I wish I could go to the Olympics.
Yes. Well,
We-
do try and stay in our Ginza Agora. That's a very beautiful hotel there.
And if you could extend a VIP discount to all the guests who
Of course, it's with pleasure.
Great. On that note, thank you so much, Winnie, for joining us for this interview.
Thank you, Ronald. And thank you everyone for listening in. I hope it's helpful.
Thank you so much.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.